Starting the day with your customized alarm, falling asleep listening to Calm, routes to work on Google Maps, group chats on WhatsApp, podcasters, bloggers, influencers, vloggers, the one thing you must do to live longer. $30,000 sneakers, robot teachers, Kim Kardashian's maternity dress, 3 vital habits that guarantee success. 4G, 5G, 6G, AI, VR, 360. 4 important ways to getting more healthy. The political left, the political right. Polar bears standing on melting ice. Alexa, what's the meaning of life? Fast fiber, driverless cars, posting pictures of your best day ever on Insta, Twitter, Snapchat, Meta. 5 quick cheats to make your life better. Deepfake, Netflix, Prime, YouTube TV, HBO, Crunchyroll, sunsets via live stream. 7 techniques that guarantee rest, an ever-growing sense of hopelessness. 10 top tips to have the best year yet, to make happiness increase, to find the life you seek. Trying to buy my peace, trying to find myself, trying to be like everyone else. Liked, I'm followed, I'm viral, I'm trending. Life unending in this kingdom of plenty. So why do I feel so empty?
Good morning, ACC. Good morning. So glad that you joined us this morning. If you haven't met yet, I'm Pastor Mike. I'm the student pastor and the worship and creative arts pastor here at Arundel Christian Church. Super excited to bring the word to you this morning. And we're in an interesting series. Normally when you come to church, we're in a book of the Bible or we're in some sort of study where we're really digging in the scripture and saying, here's the context, here's the culture of what's happening and how does this pertain to us. But today, with trending, instead of digging into the context and culture of scripture, we're going to be digging into the context and culture of our lives and what is trending in our lives and how are we, within this context, supposed to live. And so today, we've already looked at technology and AI, we've looked at fashion and entertainment, and now we're looking at social media and cell phones. This is going to be a good one, right? So super excited, and of course, they got the student pastor to do this one, right? But really excited to bring this to you, and especially because this is a really, my heart really goes out for this topic because I've witnessed everything I'm about to preach to you this morning in regards to this and how we should live. So I'm going to start with social media. And the first thing I want to say very clearly, social media is not inherently evil, but it must be used with wisdom and intentionality. I think the problem is we can very quickly demonize something and say social media is evil, or cell phones are evil, or AI is evil, or this, that, and the other. And the thing itself is not evil. What is evil is the way that we've chosen to use it. That's where the sin comes from. The sin comes from within us. It's not from that. It's from within us. And we need to, it's very easy to point the finger, right, church? And say, I'm not the problem, that's the problem. But in reality, we need to look back here. Now, originally, social media emerged as a tool to connect people across distance, enabling communications with loved ones and with communities that couldn't see each other face to face. Well, we all agree that's a pretty good thing, right? To connect people. However, as we look at it today, ironically, despite being the most digitally connected generation in history, we are the loneliest generation in history. Recent studies show that nearly 30% of people report feeling alone. This is up from 2018. Pre-pandemic, only 17%. That's almost double in only about 5 to 6 years. And it's very important to realize that as much as we think social media is connecting us, the reality is the way in which we are using social media is not connecting us, it's actually making us more lonely and more set apart and more away from other people. So today I want to talk about 8 downfalls of social media. I've mentioned the good part of what it started as, to connect people. Unfortunately, we're not using it properly or the way it was initially intended, and now here we are with it actually doing the opposite of what it intended to do. First downfall, pride. Pride. Social media often encourages self-promotion. It encourages comparison and the pursuit of external validation. Likes and followers can inflate our egos and drive us towards image-based living. Let's be honest, we've experienced this in our own lives. Your post goes viral, all right? Or it gets retweeted or reposted, and you go, oh my goodness, look at what I said. Like, it's a big deal. Or look at what I did. That's so awesome. And then we chase that feeling. Look what it says in 1 John 2, verse 16. It says this. For the world offers only a craving of physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and our possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from the world. Church, these things are from the world. They're not from God. Pride is not from God. Humility is from God. And in social media, we tend to find ourselves engaging in pride, trying to put ourselves out there in a way that makes us look great, that promotes us in a light that, quite frankly, not to jump ahead, but might not be completely truthful of who we actually are. So if you're wondering, maybe you're sitting there going, I don't really struggle with pride in social media. Here's the reflection question to the litmus test. Are you seeking the approval of God or the approval of man? When you're on social media, are you seeking the approval of God or the approval of man? I know this is going to be a very tough message today. I get it. It's okay to be silent. But at the same time, I want us to realize that in order to make a change in our lives, we have to identify the problem. We can't live our lives ignoring the problem. We have to identify it. And I'm sitting here telling you, I've struggled with these too. This isn't just me talking to you saying you better be better. This is all of us together going, hey, we all need to get better at this because we're all wrestling with this. Number 2, downfall of social media, envy. Envy. The curator, the lives that we see on social media platforms that are like perfect lead us to envy. They lead us to discontentment. They lead us to unrealistic expectations. And it distorts our perception of reality. And in doing that, it breeds this ingratitude, this I don't like my life. I wish it was like that. But we're looking at something that isn't really real. I woke up like this. No, you did not, right? But this is what we see on social media. We see all these things that just seem so perfect because it's that curated, prideful, here's me, and I'm putting the best foot forward. In fact, sometimes even an exaggerated foot forward in order to get you. How many of you have seen the things where they show the really awesome vacation photo, and then you see the reality of the vacation photo? You go, oh. Like, it looks great in the picture because they've edited it a lot, but then you get to the real place, you're like, this is a dump. Like, what? Like, but they make it look great. In Exodus chapter 20, God talks about this. God speaks this from Mount Sinai to the Jewish people. And when we're talking about envy, we have to realize that envy is a form of covetousness. Look at Exodus chapter 20, verse 17. You must not covet your neighbor's house. You must not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. And yet, let's be honest, when we go on social media, what do? I wish I had that. 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 And then we end up going to our Amazon cart and going, what happened? Right? And then all of a sudden, you're looking at your spouse going, how much did you spend this month? And then they're going, how much did you spend this month? And you go, oh, yeah, that was me this month, right? But it's just so easy. It's so easy to get distracted and to get this covetousness, this envy of other people's things. And a way to check to see if you're really struggling with covetousness or envy on social media is this litmus test, this question. Do you rejoice in others' blessings or silently covet what they have? Ooh, right? When we go on social media, are you like, oh, I'm so happy for them? You're like, how could you? I should have that, right? Like, I wish I had that. And that's what's happening. Number 3, wasting time. Get it? I got to be careful, though. I only have so many minutes. But wasting time, right? Endless scrolling, these digital distractions, they rob us of these spiritual disciplines. They rob us of time in prayer. They rob us of time in our scripture and in our word. It robs us of even real-world relationships because we're just endlessly scrolling this brain rot in social media. And by the way, I count YouTube as social media. And if you don't know the definition of social media. YouTube is part of social media. And if now we're going, oh, actually, yeah, I'm pretty bad at that. Like, it's so easy, right? They just scroll, next video, next video, next video. Look what it says in Ephesians chapter 5. Paul says this to the church in Ephesus. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 to 16 says this. So be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Church, are you making the most of every opportunity when you're just scrolling on social media? Are you really living the life that God has called you to when you're wasting all of this time? And it's actually kind of ironic because I can't tell you how many times I had people say, I just don't have time to read my Bible. I just don't have time to pray. But if we look at your screen time, I mean, guilty, right? And me too, right? If we're honest, we could make the time. We just don't want to. A way of checking to see if you are wasting time is this litmus test. How much of your day belongs to God and how much belongs to your feed? And if you're like, what is your feed? It's like you're scrolling Instagram or your posts on Meta. Number 4, hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Social media tempts us to present a curated, inauthentic version of ourselves. Church, when your online persona diverges from who you are privately, it creates dissonance, specifically spiritual dissonance. You are being hypocritical. You are showing people, this is who I am, but it's exaggerated. This isn't you. And let's be honest, church, it's not even just online. A lot of us walk into these very doors, and we put on a face. We don't show people who we really are. We show people what we think they want to see. We show people what we want others to see. We aren't ourselves. This is hypocrisy. It's a form of hypocrisy. It's just as bad as your word not meaning what it means. In fact, in Scripture, it says this in Matthew chapter 5, verse 37. Jesus says, just say a simple yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond that is from the evil one. And what Jesus is trying to talk about in this entire section is this idea of hypocrisy. You shouldn't be living a life where your yes doesn't really mean yes and your no doesn't really mean no. You shouldn't be living a life where your image that you put out there is not really who you are. You should be authentic. You should be real. Imagine if that would happen and we walked into church and you got the question, how you doing? I'm willing to bet 98% of us would no longer say, I'm doing great. And we'd actually say, you know what? It's difficult. Life's hard. This is going on in my family. This is going on in my marriage. This is going on with my spouse. This is going on in my divorce. This is going on here, there, or there. But then we're able to, Galatians 6:2, carry each other's burdens and in this way fulfill the law of Christ. The problem is we're so worried about judgment that we're inauthentic. And that's not just here in person, that's also online, especially online. The reflection for this test is, are you the same person offline as you are online? Are you? Or are you a completely different person? Some of you might even have a completely different name online. You're Joe Schmo, or some weird combination of letters and numbers that no one can decipher. Number 5, I figure we're halfway through. Let's get deep. Gossip. Ooh, this is a hard one. And church, let me define gossip for you, because a lot of us have found ways to redefine this word to make it not as bad. Gossip is talking about someone else behind their back, period. That's it. Usually negative, but talking about someone behind their back. That's it. That's gossip. A lot of times, gossip does take the form of hearsay, rumors, negative, and a lot of times it even is, well, I don't like what this person did, but you haven't gone and talked to that person. You're talking to every other person that you can, other than the person that's wronged you, or the person that you perceived has done something wrong to you. Gossip is a big issue, especially online on platforms that amplify outrage, that often become breeding grounds for gossip, slander, and division. As the kids say, spill the tea, right? If you don't know what that means give me the gossip. What's up? As Christians, we're called to be voices of grace, truth, and peace. We're not called to engage in this kind of talk. In fact, Paul mentions this because the early church also struggled with this. Remember, they're still people too. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 says this: "Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them." Remember what Grandma used to say? If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. What happened? I'm not saying it, I'm typing it, right? No, you're still saying it. It's just digitally. And this is the problem. And this is the other problem, is online, because of anonymity and because you're not face-to-face, you say things you would never say if they were in front of you. And then we wonder why there's so much divisiveness, why there's so much polarization in our world today, even in our nation. Because we say things we would never say in person. If we were face-to-face with that person, we would never say half the things that we write. Here's the question for this one, this reflection. Do your posts and comments reflect the heart of Christ, or do they stir up strife? Number 6, addiction. Addiction. When checking social media becomes compulsive, it's a sign of digital idolatry. Yes, I said idolatry, because that's exactly what it is. Anything that we turn to for worth, escape, or identity apart from God is idolatry, and it's spiritual bondage. It's addiction. And this is something that we have to be careful of, church, because social media and cell phone addiction is rampant in our country today, in our world today. And the problem is we have put it off as we're not actually addicted. I could put that down whenever I want. I say this to the youth all the time because we have a strict no cell phone policy at ACC students for everything we do, from regular youth group night to events to trips to missions trips, all of it. No cell phones at all for students. And every time I get the same thing. But what about taking photos? That's great. There's this thing called a camera. You can buy it. What about if I need to know what time it is? There's this thing called a watch, you wear on your wrist. It's really great. Well, what if I need to call my parents? Hey, good news. Every single parent has a cell phone, and we have your parents' number. So we're good. And they come up with all these excuses, and then I say, look, just put your phone away. Like, oh, well, I was just doing this. I'm like, you're addicted. And then they say this. They say, no, I'm not. I'm like, really? Prove me wrong. Put it away. Just for 2 hours for a youth group. It's hard for a lot of students to do that. A lot of students, 3 minutes later, we see the phone bag out again. And then we confiscate it and give it to the parent. But the point is, it's become an addiction. And the reality is it's not just teens, too. Parents, wake up. We're addicted, too. We become addicted to our devices. And Pastor Matt mentioned this the very first week in regards to technology. He said, technology is a tool. Don't let it enslave you. And that's exactly what's happening. These devices are enslaving us, making us think that we need them. I don't know how I moved from social media to cell phones, but here's a question for you. What do you reach for first? Your phone or your Bible? I have the Bible app on my phone. Okay, let's look at your screen time. Let's see how much it's actually the Bible app, right? Good try. But no, it's the reality. Are you reaching for God's word, or are you reaching for the world? That's what the phone is. It's a gateway to the culture of the world, and we're just eating it up. Number 7, Isolation. Superficial, I can't speak. Superficial digital connections can create the illusion of community. Like we get this illusion that see, I got this community of people I talk to. But the reality is it leaves us spiritually and emotionally isolated. Because God calls us, church, to deep face-to-face fellowship. Not indirect online through text. Look at what it says when the author of Hebrews writes this. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25. It says this. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. See, even in the early church, there were people that were like, I just want to stay home. I don't want to be around other people. I don't want to be in this community. But God calls us to community. God calls us to interactions with other people. It's so much easier to just not do anything though, right? Think about it. When you were a kid, you got really excited when they said, what did you do this weekend? And you went, we didn't do anything this weekend, right? Or, we did this and we did this, and you get really excited. When you're an adult though, what did you do this weekend? Oh my gosh, we had to do this, we had to do that, we did this. Versus, what did you do this weekend? I did nothing at all. I did absolutely nothing. It was great. But the problem is when we do absolutely nothing, we're losing that face-to-face interaction with people. And we're missing that connection that God has called us to. It's okay to take a break once in a while, but it's important for us to reconnect with other people. Here's a question for you. Are you truly known and loved by your church community, or just followed online? Look around this room right now. This is your church family. This is just the 10 o'clock service. We have 3 other services. Of the people in this room, how many of them do you spend time with? Do you spend time with people from church? Or do you just show up here, sit in your seat, listen to the message, go home, and then never talk to anyone in the church? The church is the gathering of believers. We're called to be together. We're called to gather together, to break bread together, to live life together. And yet, we're in such a culture where we just go, nope. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to be in my own house. I'm going to just stay here, and it's easier. But we're called to be in connection with each other. And this is where I have the selfish plug for life groups coming up this fall. Don't forget to get plugged in. All right. Number 8, delusion. When I was getting my master's of divinity at Palmer Theological Seminary, one of my professors had us read this book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman. He's a psychologist, not Christian, but a very, very interesting thought that he brings forward is this idea of the illusion of validity. And he ties it specifically to our world today and says that we often surround ourselves with like-minded voices, filtering out all dissent. And this echo chamber that we create convinces us that we're always right because we only hear affirmation. And this is exactly what's happening on social media. Think about it. You friend the people you want to be friends with, and you block or unfriend the people that you don't want to talk to. And what ends up happening is you're only putting voices in your ear that agree with you. So then you go, see, everyone agrees with me. No, the select few people that you've chosen agree with you. You're not listening to all the other voices. You're not hearing all the other sides. Why do you think we're so polarized? We aren't listening to other people. We're not listening to the other side because we're only listening to our own side or our own views, and we're not taking the whole picture. And then we get into this echo chamber of course I'm right because everyone around me agrees. And that's a problem. It causes delusion. It causes us thinking we're always right. And let's be honest, we'd rather be right than wrong. So it makes sense that we do that. But that's not right. Here's the reflection question. Is your worldview shaped more by social feedback than biblical truth? Look at this scripture, 1 Corinthians 1, verse 25. Says this, This foolish plan of God is wiser than the wisest of human plans. And God's weakness is stronger than the greatest of human strength. And the reason I bring that up is, think about this for a second. God's foolishness is wiser than any man's thought. His foolishness. So when we surround ourselves with all these people and say, see, they all agree with me. But God's foolishness is wiser than any of that. So why aren't you going to him? Why aren't you listening to what he says and focusing on what he has to do? So I think I've pretty well showed you some huge downfalls of social media. And again, it's not evil, it's being used improperly. It's being used by sinful people who are using it sinfully, because that's what we are. We're sinful people, and we default to sin. And when we have an outlet, a platform where we can sin and then justify it, we do it. Because it's easy, it's simple, it's what we want. But now I'm going to take a shift to cell phones. Shifting to cell phones. I'm going to start with this as well. Cell phones are not inherently evil, but they too must be used with discernment. See, cell phones were originally designed to simplify communication, enhance accessibility, but as they've evolved, so too have the challenges and the dangers associated with them. Let me go ahead and just say this right off the bat. I want to give you a brief history of cell phones. And some of you have lived this, and some of you are so young, you don't even know this history, and you're going to be like, there was a time without cell phones? What? What's a dumb phone? All right, so early 2000s, cell phone ownership rises significantly in the early 2000s, like huge jump. 2007, the first iPhone is released. June of 2007. It marks the beginning of the smartphone era. I remember when this happened. I was in college. I just started being a youth pastor. Freshman year of college, straight in the youth ministry. Someone wasn't thinking. But made a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. I've grown up. But doing youth ministry, and I remember seeing the first iPhone, and I went, wait, how does that work? Like, where's your keyboard? Like, how do you type numbers? And like, oh, see, it's a touch screen. Like, touch screen without a stylus? Like, what is this? Like, I'm just so used to, like, you know, the Blackberries and the all those other things with styluses. And it's like, wow. But I remember seeing it and going, well, that keyboard's just way too small for my fat fingers. They're gonna have to fix that. They did. But the point is, like, I remember seeing it going, this is just crazy. And apps and all this stuff. Smartphones come around 2007. 2011, something drastic happens. The phone part of your phone becomes the least used item in 2011. 73% of primary people used phones primarily for texting and for photos, and 44% were using it primarily to access the internet. Not even using computers anymore. 44%, I'm using my iPhone to access the internet. I'm using it for texting and for photos. I actually kind of find it funny that nowadays, we go on like a long road trip, and if you forget your phone, it's like the end of the world, right? Especially for your child. Like, oh my goodness, I left my phone. And there's this really funny comedian, John McIntyre, makes a bit about this. And he goes like, oh my goodness. I need all of our photo albums. Every single photo that we have, I need to take it with us, right? My cassette tapes, all of my cassette tapes, all my mixtapes, everything with me, all my music, right? All the video collections of videos I've ever watched, I need them. But that's what happens. Because we don't use our phones as phones, we use them as as entertainment devices. And it's everything. Our entire lives are in this phone. 2021, 85% of Americans own smartphones. 2024, 96% of Americans own cell phones. And 2025, and this is really scary, 97% of teenagers use their phones during the school day. 97%. And a lot of the kids went, don't look at me, Mom and Dad, right? But that's the reality. And I'm about to give you some more statistics, and then we're going to jump into 10 issues with smartphones. But I want you to hear me when I say this. Everything that I'm telling you today is not only statistics that can be backed up, but also what I have experienced personally. As I mentioned, I started doing youth ministry in 2007. 18 years, half my life, I've been doing youth ministry. I've been working with 6th grade to 12th grade students for 18 years. And I have watched from when there was no cell phones to where we are now. And I have seen the difference. I've seen the transformation. I've seen the change. And everything I'm going to say today, as difficult as it is to hear, it's true. I've experienced it. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I hope and pray that your hearts are ready to hear the truth. Because this is the reality of where we are. Let's look at one last chart. Smartphone and dumb phone ownership trends. Dumb phone. You know, the ones that don't have a touch screen and usually don't connect to the internet, or if they do, it takes like 20 minutes to get onto a page. In 2005, no one owned a smartphone. 63% had a dumb phone, and 37% had no cell phone at all. 5 years later, in 2010, 37% of people had smartphones, and only 43% had dumb phones. 20% had no phone. 2015, 59%, over half of the people in the world had a smartphone. 31% had a dumb phone, and only 10% had no cell phone at all. 2020, 81% had a smartphone, 14% dumb phone, 5% no cell phone. And finally, 2025, where we are now, 92% of people have a cell phone. 7% have a dumb phone, and less than 1% have no cell phone at all. And by the way, little note, a majority of those still using the basic dumb phones are 65 plus in age. And that's not a judgment. That's just saying that's where that number comes from. The reality is pretty much everyone has a smartphone. In fact, there's another study. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the majority of people who are homeless have a cell phone. It's just interesting to even think about that we're in an era and an age where smartphones are so prevalent in our world. And the reason why this is important is because of the issues that smartphones have. Again, we're not using the phone as a phone. We're using it as all these other things, really to engage in culture. Now, I want to talk about 10 issues with smartphones, and specifically teens, but I think if we're honest with ourselves, we're going to notice a lot of these things in ourselves as well, if you're not a teen. You're going to start seeing it. First one, mental health. Mental health. Smartphones are increasingly linked in studies to mental health challenges in teens. The constant connectivity and exposure to online content causes emotional and psychological strain. We see this in the impact of social media as well as cyberbullying. And we're seeing that constantly. This social media where there's this like, I should look like this, I should live like this. If I say something wrong, all of a sudden it's going to be all over social media and everyone's going to be against me and saying evil things about me. Cyberbullying, just going out against kids. It's happening all over. Number 2, academic performance. Excessive smartphone use interferes with concentration and academic success, leading to a decline in grades and overall learning. Distractions during study time. Teens are checking social media. Their notifications are going off. They're constantly going to their phone. Constantly. How many, and even us, let's be honest, how many times have you been in a meeting or you've been at work and all of a sudden you get that phantom vibration? Oh, my phone's not even there. Because your mind's going, we should have been interrupted by now. We are spending way too long on this one task. Where's this break? That's what's happening. And in fact, there are even doctors who have said openly that we have misdiagnosed an entire generation with ADD and ADHD. There is ADD and ADHD. It's a legitimate disorder, which means cannot be fixed, all right? It is a disorder, attention deficit or attention deficit hyper disorder. It is a thing. There are kids that have it. There are many, though, it's a learned behavior. It can be changed. It's a learned behavior. The symptoms are mimicking that which is a disorder. But they've just learned this way because they've always had the cell phone, constantly interrupting them, constantly getting them to look at it to the point where now they can't focus on anything. And then they say it's ADD, and it's not. Most, it's not. It still is for some, so don't just jump off your medication, all right? Like, please, don't, all right? But make sure, because it's true. This is what's happening in our world today. Reduced retention, lower retention rates, difficulty grasping complex topics. We're actually seeing this even in YouTube. I remember when I first started getting into YouTube, there was a big push for content creators to make long-form content, like 10, 20-minute content. Remember those days? It was like everyone was like, that's how they made their money, was make these long videos to try and get you to stay involved and engaged for all this time. But now it's all short-form, shorts. Like the vertical, quick scroll, and it's like less than a minute. It's gotten to the point where even things like TikTok, I watch kids literally go like this on TikTok, 1 second, swipe, 1 second, swipe, 1 second, swipe. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, it didn't get my attention. That's just happening. It's not grabbing their attention. So now what are they doing? Take a look at this. On shorts, on YouTube shorties, all this stuff, what's happening? There's the video at the top that you're getting all the sound from, and then there's another video on the bottom that's just some interesting thing, like a 5-minute craft or something like that, to try and keep your attention. It's showing you two things to try and grasp you on something so that you stay. Go ahead, take a look. I'm not joking, but don't get stuck on there too long, all right? But I'm serious. It's crazy what's happening. Reduced retention. Number 3, social development. Smartphones offer convenience for communication, but they also hinder the development of critical social skills, especially in teens. We see this in surface-level relationships. Teens are becoming more comfortable with online interactions rather than face-to-face interactions and face-to-face conversations, which is leading to weaker interpersonal relationships because it's so much easier just to text online. Hey, I see this all the time. Hey, what's your Snap? What's your Insta? That's how they're communicating. They're not saying, hey, what's your number so that I can call and set up a time to go out with you and hang out. No, it's, what's this? So I can just text you or I can just send you something. Delayed emotional maturity. This is also under social development. Engaging with peers online limits the ability to learn how to navigate complex social cues, how to navigate body language, how to navigate nuanced conversations that occur in person. Because everything's online. How many times have you texted someone and you go, I can't tell if they're mad at me? Or you can't because there's no body language, there's no tone, there's nothing. But this is what's happening. So then these teens are growing up and they're like, I don't know how to interact. I can't read this situation. What's happening? Are they mad or are they not? Number 4, and all of this leads to this, increased anxiety and depression. We're seeing this especially in teens. You ever hear of FOMO? Fear of missing out? There's this fear of like when they go online, they see all these things that people are doing, like, man, I don't want to miss out. But then there's also that social anxiety that's kicking in. So it's like this catch-22. I want to be a part of it, but there's people. And it's that weird push. Constant notifications, constantly streaming in. All of a sudden they're happy, and all of a sudden they get that one notification, and their entire day is shot. Oh my goodness, so-and-so said this about my friend. Now my life is over, right? And that's what happens. And again, teens in the room, I love you. I don't blame you for this. I don't, all right? There's a lot of blame to go around, and I don't blame it on you. I blame it on how you've been brought up in this generation, in this world, with this technology and what it's done. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, increased anxiety and depression. In fact, I'm going to talk about at the end here. I think I am. No, I'm not. I'm going to talk about it now. I forgot to write this down, but I looked it up before first service, and I looked at what are the anxiety and depression numbers by year. And constantly from like 1950s, when we started really looking at these numbers, all the way to about 2005, it was about 1 in 20 teens reported roughly, like, up and down here and there, between around 5%. Around 1 in 20 teens struggling with anxiety or depression. 2025, it's 1 in 5, 20%. And that's just the ones that are reported. So we've seen a huge jump that's never been seen before. It's been constant for years. And what changed in 2005? Social media, smartphones. It's clear as day that this is the issue, the misuse. Number 5, this is a big one for a lot of us, including myself sometimes. Sleep disruption. Sleep disruption. Smartphones interfere with sleep patterns, and this is really crucial for teens' mental and physical well-being. You can't catch up on sleep. It's not a thing. I used to think that in college, and look at all the gray hair I have now. All right, so blue light exposure. This is one of them. Blue light that is emitted from smartphone screens disrupts melatonin production, which is the natural chemical in your body to help you fall asleep. So when you put that phone in front of you or that TV screen or whatever it is, any type of screen, you're disrupting and then you go, oh, I'm not tired, I'm just going to stay up. I'm not tired, I'm going to stay up, because you're disrupting that natural chemical in your body to put you to sleep. Late night usage, the habit of using smartphones late at night for socializing, gaming, entertainment, leads to insufficient rest, which I would argue also leads to the academic performance that's low, and all these other things that are happening. Number 6, reduced face-to-face interaction. Teams spend more time online and less time in person. It's really simple. This is what they're doing. They're spending more time online, less time in person, which leads to less emotional connection. Texting, social media, lack of tone, body language, emotional depth of conversations, these are all misunderstood by teens these days because they have these weaker emotional bonds because they're not having those social interactions. And this is the big one, social anxiety. This is real. This is a real thing. Teens are afraid to be with other teens or be with other people. They're afraid a lot of them are afraid to be in public, even the ones that are extroverted, which, by the way, extroverted just means that you gain your energy when you're around people. It doesn't actually mean that you necessarily like to be around people. It's a misconception. But this is the issue, this anxiety of being around other people. But then there's that, as we talked about, that FOMO and other things, and they're sort of in this weird spot, and it just adds and builds upon itself. I got to get moving. Oh, boy. All right, number 7. Stay with me. Difficulties regulating emotions. Instant gratification, right? Everything is immediately there. They don't need to be patient or work on delayed gratification skills. Escapism, to get away from it all, right? That's what they use social media for. That's what they use their phones for, to get away from the emotional difficulties. And in doing that, they aren't developing those healthy coping mechanisms like deep breathing, talking to trusted adults, engaging in physical activity, screaming in your pillow, right? Like instead, it turns into just this, I'm just overwhelmed and I got to get away, and then they jump to an online presence. And nowadays, it's even turning into chatting with AI instead of people. It's turning into VR headsets to sort of get away and be in community with all these either fake or real people, but you're not really in community. You're sitting in your room on a headset. You're escaping. Number 8, decreased attention spans. This happens because of constant switching between apps. This habit of multitasking, which, by the way, multitasking isn't actually a thing. You can't actually do it. It's literally impossible medically. You are just quickly switching your focus to one thing or another very quickly. Some people are really good at that, usually women. Men are really bad. Like, we cannot focus on 2 things at once at all. Like, at all. How many of you have ever done this before? You're in the middle of a conversation with your spouse or someone in the car, and all of a sudden you go, oh, I missed my exit, right? Like, because you can't actually multitask, all right? It's not literally possible. But this is what's happening in the world today, is these teens are constantly switching between apps, constantly trying to stay connected. I mean, there are people that will actually get to a point where, like, I'm watching a movie. If the movie stops or it hits a commercial, I have to put up my phone and watch something else. I'm like, it's like 2 seconds. No, I gotta be focused on something, right? And that's what happens. And this is the biggest problem, though. It leads to diminished deep work capability. And this is one of the reasons why Gen Z aren't getting jobs. Because they have a diminished deep work capability. Teens are finding it harder to focus on tasks that require deep, concentrated thought like reading or problem solving because of this attention span issue, which is coming from cell phones. Number 9, decreased cognitive function. Dependency on technology for memory. We talked about this week 1. You have a tool, the tool helps you do something, but it makes something else weaker. Many of you remember the days before cell phones, before even like cordless landlines, and you had to memorize your friends' numbers. And then you had to call them and hope they were home, because otherwise you get the busy signal or you don't get them and you got to call them back. And you had to remember the numbers. I still remember a bunch of numbers from when I was a kid. Nowadays, you ask a kid, what's your parents' number? They go, I don't know. I don't know their number. And you go, well, luckily I have planning center, so I can just find the parent. Right? Hey, but it's leading to this dependency on technology for their memory. Also, impaired decision making. Teens are so used to receiving quick and simplified answers that it's very hard for them to make thoughtful, well-considered decisions because they're so focused. They get that quick hit of this is what it is, it's simplified. That's also why we have so much division in our world today. Because it's not just teens, it's us too. We're so used to getting the quick, simplified version, we go, well, this is clearly black and white, this is what it is, but we're missing all the nuance in everything. And so we're not talking about it, and we're just going, well, it's clearly this. And the other side is going, well, it's clearly this. And this is why we miss each other. And finally, here we go, 10, reduced physical activity. The sedentary nature of cell phone use contributes to a significant reduction in physical activity, which is essential for overall health and development. It's very simple. More screen time, less exercise. That's just what it is. More screen time, less exercise, which leads to a lot of issues. Do you know this? This is a very scary statistic. The average screen time for teens today in the United States is 9+ hours a day. 9+ hours. That's 63+ hours a week. That's 3,276+ hours a year. That means that teens, on average, are spending more than 38% of their life on screens. And if we're really honest, we haven't even touched the sleeping portion of that day. It's like 50% of their waking life. That's where we're at. Which also leads to health risks. The sedentary lifestyle increases the risk of obesity, increases the risk of poor posture, increases the risk of long-term health issues like cardiovascular problems, as well as what they're starting to say now is texting thumb. Seriously, like kids getting arthritis in their thumbs from the constant texting. So, what now, God? What do we do with all this? Because that's a lot. That's a lot of information I threw at you. I know it's not a normal message, but I want you to hear my heart. I'm not against social media. I'm not against cell phones. What I am is I'm against things that are clearly not healthy for us to be engaged in or for students to be engaged in. Let me give you this example. When I was working at Calvary Chapel, Delaware County as a youth pastor there, we had a special speaker come in from Ravi Zacharias Ministries, Montgomery. And Montgomery was born Muslim, became a Christian. And he gave this really awesome imagery when someone asked him about boundaries. And how do I set boundaries for my kids? Or why does God set boundaries in my life? And he said, it's very simple. For my daughter, I set boundaries in the backyard. In the backyard, I put up a fence so that she can enjoy the backyard to the fullness that it has. And as a child, she loved it. She'd run in the backyard, she'd giggle, she'd play, she'd run, she'd fall, it'd be fine. But then as she got older, she started asking questions. Why is that fence there? Why can't I go over there? What is mom and dad trying to stop me from doing? And Abdu said this, he said, what she didn't realize is that on this side of this fence is a neighbor that has a pit bull that's very aggressive and is never chained up. So if that fence were gone and she were outside, who knows what would happen? On this side of the fence, there's a neighbor who constantly puts excessive chemicals all over his yard to the point where there are many pets in the neighborhood that have eaten the grass and actually had health issues because of it. And he has to put up all these signs. And if she were to go over there and put that in her mouth, who knows what would happen. And at the back of our house, if she were to go and that fence were to be gone, there's a giant ditch that leads to like a sewage line. And it's like a cliff basically with rocks and like thorns. I put up these fences so that my daughter can enjoy the freedom of the backyard safely. But she sees it and she goes, "You're not letting me be free. You're not letting me do what I want to do. You're keeping something from me." Church, it's the same thing with God. God puts up fences, boundaries, or as Pastor Matt said, guardrails, saying, hey, if you go over there, that sin is going to hurt. It might look good. It might be like, I want to be over there, but if you're over there, it's not going to be good for you. We need to do the same when it comes to social media and cell phones. We need to set up boundaries, healthy boundaries, and say, this is how you use it right. This is something that's going to lead to issues down the line. Because church, I've been doing this for 18 years. I have sat in rooms with students who are depressed, tell me their parents hate them, have attempted suicide, are struggling with cutting, anorexia, bulimia, feel like they don't fit in. And every single time it comes back to what they're seeing in the world, what people are saying about them online. And I just look at these children, and my heart breaks, and I go, we got to do something. These statistics, when we see these kinds of statistics, when we see these things in real life, when we see, hey, alcohol is not healthy for children, what do? We set a limit. When we see weed is not a good thing, well, it's not good, but for kids, we set a limit. When we see cigarette smoking is not good, we set a limit, and then we set a more limit. But then when it comes to cell phones and social media, free for all. Go for it. What? Stop killing our kids. They need guidance. They need good, healthy boundaries. They need parents that are going to take them forward as God wants them to go. But we have turned to ease of living. I can't shut this baby up. Here's an iPad. I don't know what to do. My kid's just go in your room, play with your phone. I can't deal with you right now. And then I get parents that go, man, I just wish I could connect with my kid. I had one parent do that. I just wish I could connect with my kid. And I went, man, I'm going to pray for you that you can find time to do that. And then COVID hit. Perfect. Like, well, sorry, but like, you got all the time in the world now. And I remember talking to him about 3-4 months into COVID. I was like, so how's it going? He's like, oh, I can't stand having my kids at home. Like, I just have to throw them in their room with an iPad. I'm like, what? You told me you wanted to spend time with them, and now you have unlimited time, and you're just throwing them in the room because they're bothering you. We need to set boundaries. Not because we're the uncool parent, but because we're a parent and we're a church, a community that holds these values as above culture. The right values, the true values, the values that bring life, not death. Yeah, kid's not gonna be too happy. In fact, right now they're all going, shut up. And by the way, don't do this. Please don't do this. Don't just go home and just immediately pull everything, all right? That's not going to be a good way to do it because it's not going to be sustainable. all right? The way that Henry Cobb, I know I'm going way over, but just stay with me here, all right? The way Henry Cobb put it is this. He said, the reason why we have so many New Year's resolutions is because people set unrealistic goals. I'm going to go to the gym every single day at 6 a.m., and I'm going to work out for an hour. And then what happens? But come February, they're all not there. He says, rather set a realistic goal. And here's the goal. Every morning at 6 a.m. when my alarm goes off, I'm going to put my gym shorts on. That's it. Sometimes you might put them on, you might fall right back to sleep. But the reality is you're going to put them on, and most likely you're going to end up at the gym. Church, set realistic expectations. What is a realistic change that you can make right now in your own life or in your family's life or in your kids' life in regards to social media and cell phones that is something that just gets the ball rolling? That little step that you can make and you go, we can start here and watch what happens. Because at the end of the day, we all have to be careful because we're all falling into sin one way or another with these devices and with this social media. Overuse of smartphones is not good for mental health, academic performance, social development, all these things. So we need, church, we need this. We need parents, educators, and communities to set boundaries to encourage mindful use, biblical use of technology. Technology is a powerful tool, church. It's great. There are so many positives to it. As much as all the negatives I gave, there are still tons of positives. However, the tools must serve God's purposes, not replace them. Whether it's social media or smartphones, we're called to be wise stewards of redeeming our time, guarding our hearts, and walking in integrity. I want to remind you what it says in Ephesians 5, verses 15 and 16. So be careful how you live. Don't live like the fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Church, let's redeem our time. Let's redeem these addictions that we have. Let's parent well, and let's move forward biblically, focused on God, recognizing the sin that we've justified, and saying, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to make a change.